Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. Happy Thursday. We're almost to Friday. I hope you're having a great day. Do me a favor, please smash that like button and please subscribe to my channel. Those are 2 free ways you can help me. And if you'd like to support my work, please consider a Patreon membership. You can find out how to do that in the description of this video. If I had to sum up Donna Adelson's statement at her sentencing hearing, let's say use one word to describe it, I would say BS. And I'm not alone. Dan Markell's mother, Ruth, was briefly on Carl Steinbeck's channel yesterday, and she used a more elegant term, I would say, to describe Donna's words. Ruth called them false. And Ruth made a really good point. She said that Donna never praised Dan Markell in front of his sons, Ben and Lincoln. We know that Ben and Lincoln told their father, Danny, that their grandmother, Donna, had called him stupid and had told the kids that he, Dan, wanted to take them, her sunshines, away from her. So Donna said terrible things about Dan in front of his sons when they were very young. And basically, Donna, Wendi, and Harvey, in my opinion, brainwashed those boys. They were led to believe, likely, that their father was the bad guy. How else to explain the divorce? And how else to explain why their last names were changed from Markell to Adelson? So what are Benjamin and Lincoln, now ages 15 and 13, about to turn 14, to make of their grandmother Donna's high praise now of their father during her sentencing? That alone, this turnaround, may prove to them that Grandma Donna was indeed involved in their father's death. What they heard from Grandma Donna during the rest of their lives was criticism of their father. And Donna helped Wendi try to erase Dan from their lives. Now suddenly Donna has all these wonderful things to say about their father? Surely Benjamin and Lincoln, if they saw that statement, can see through their grandmother. I'm going to share what Ruth said on the show last night. Again, this is from Carl Steinbeck's YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description.
He got us in there harsh, so we're liars. But, they didn't stop at anything, not at the court, not at the jury, not at the judge. And I think once, for me personally, you see the capability of what they can do when they're blocked. So it's not to see what they can do when they have an opportunity. It's to see what they do when they don't have the opportunity to get what they want. So this, I think, is probably, before you have different considerations. Nobody wants murder. Nobody wants, from a very contentious divorce, any kind of murder. But now you see really evidence of the plotting, the attacking, the harshness, and so forth. And I think this is a really big, huge takeaway, from the reality. And then, of course, to go into Donna's information, Donna, used this opportunity to really, talk about Dan in such a false way, for the boys. I've talked with John before about brainwashing. I mean, here's these 2 children. They're no more children, by the way. They're 15 and 16.
Right.
And not quite 16, 14 and 15, 16 soon. But the point I'm making is here's the 2 children who are really acting and knowing what they've heard all their life, that, indirectly, I'm not saying she announced every day that Danny was disgusting or this or the other, but on the flip side, there was not a lot of positive comments about Danny. All of a sudden, there's this lovely, relationship, this beautiful, statements of what a great guy he was, what a great father he was, and so forth. So I think, to me, that reaction now ends in sadness for me. Like, so first you start, with the lack of seriousness about the spectacle, and then you see the attack, and then you really see, from Donna's point now, the full distortion and how they use the children to really make their point.
I need to speak loudly because this is not amplified.
Okay. Is this loud enough, Judge?
I can hear you.
Thank you for letting me speak. My son-in-law, Dan Markell, was a fine and decent man. He was well educated and passionate about his career. He was a good son-in-law, but more importantly, he was a caring and loving father. On July 18th, 2014, his car was followed, leaving his home. It should have been just like any other day, an ordinary day in the life of Ben and Lincoln's father, but it wasn't. He didn't know when he left his boys off at daycare that would be the last time he would see them, and the last time they would see him. He didn't know when he went to the gym afterwards that would be the last time he would exercise. And he didn't know when he drove home that his life would end within minutes. Danny wasn't just being followed, he was being hunted. He was brutally murdered in broad daylight, sitting in his car, in his garage, by vicious killers. I cannot imagine the terror he felt when he saw a gun pointed at him through the window of his car. I cannot conceive of his heroic efforts to stay alive during the hours after the attack. Danny died in the early morning hours of July 19th. His death is a loss to his children, his parents, his sister, all of us in his family, his friends, his colleagues in the legal community, and to his students at FSU Law School. Danny's boys each have a photo of themselves with their Abba, their dad, beside their beds. They grew up kissing the framed photo and saying, "Good night, Abba, I love you." The pictures and memories are all they have because cruel, cold-hearted people took him from all of us who loved him. My heart was broken when Danny died. My grandsons were going to grow up without the father who loved them. I wondered, how could we help these boys through this trauma? It was then that my husband and I knew that the best way to honor Danny's memory would be to share with these children an abundance of love, the love that Danny would have given them if he were alive. It is interesting how the state can't make up its mind about who is what they call the, quote, mastermind behind this murder. In both of Catherine Magbanaw's trials, the state claimed she was the mastermind behind Danny's murder. In my son Charlie Adelson's trial, they claimed he was the mastermind. And now in my trial, they claimed that I, this grandma, was the mastermind behind the murder. I had no idea that other people planned to cut Danny's life short. And the people who did this are exactly where they deserve to be. But I had no knowledge that this horrible, evil act was going to take place. If I had become aware of this plan before Danny was murdered, I would have stopped it. With not one iota of actual evidence, the state convinced a Tallahassee jury that I solicited and conspired with other people to have Danny killed. Where is the evidence prior to the murder? The evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the state needed to prove their case. Where is the evidence before July 18th, 2014 at 10:50 in the morning?
Before you continue,
That
Mrs.
revealed-
Adelson, as it relates to this statement, is the defense trying to re-argue the trial?
No, Judge, just giving Mrs. Adelson an opportunity to be heard.
Mrs. Adelson, you certainly can continue. However, the court can take into consideration the utter lack of remorse that you are displaying. Please proceed if you desire to do so.
Where is the evidence before July 18th, 2014 at 10:50 a.m. that revealed that I had any involvement in this vile and horrific act? Where is the solicitation and conspiracy evidence? The state needed to show that there was evidence before the murder to convict me. The state couldn't show that because there wasn't any evidence. They were trying an innocent person. It makes you wonder if the jurors were sleeping when the state had Sergeant Corbett on the stand for hours. Their own star witness testified that my phone was never, I repeat, never at my son's house on the night of the murder. The state's theory that my husband and I dropped off money to my son was blown out of the water by their own witness. And yet, the state continued to push that story, that lie of the so-called money drop, to the jury through the remainder of the trial. And the jury bought into it, hook, line, and sinker.